The simulation hypothesis. Are we living in a computer program? In 2003, Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom published a paper that proposed a disturbing logical trilemma. Either almost all civilizations at our technological level go extinct before they develop the ability to run realistic simulations of conscious beings, or almost all civilizations that reach that level choose not to run such simulations, or we are almost certainly living in a simulation right now. This is known as Bostrom's trilemma. He argued that if either of the first two conditions is false, the third becomes highly probable, and the probability that we are in a simulation becomes overwhelming. The argument rests on a calculation about simulation capacity. If a technologically advanced civilization exists that can run realistic simulations of conscious beings, it could potentially run an astronomical number of them. One civilization could simulate billions of minds. If so, the ratio of simulated minds to non-simulated minds would be enormous. Statistical reasoning then suggests that any given mind is far more likely to be simulated than base reality. This argument has been called the simulation argument and is distinct from simply asserting that simulations are possible. It derives a probability from the premise that they are possible and common. What makes the simulation hypothesis more than a science fiction premise is the behavior of physics at the quantum level. Quantum mechanics describes reality in ways that resemble a computed system. Quantum states do not have definite values until they are observed. The universe appears to update in discrete steps. Information appears to be quantized. And there are fundamental limits on the resolution of physical reality, the Planck scale, below which nothing can be measured. Some physicists have noted that these features are consistent with what you would expect if reality were implemented on a computational substrate. Physicist Silas Bean and colleagues published a paper in 2012 examining whether a simulated universe would leave detectable signatures. They found that if reality were computed on a cubic lattice, like a three-dimensional pixel grid, there would be a maximum energy limit for high-energy cosmic rays that would be anisotropic, meaning it would appear different depending on the direction relative to the lattice axis. Cosmic rays have been observed to have a maximum energy limit, the GZK limit, but whether this shows the anisotropy predicted by the lattice model has not been definitively established. It is the closest thing to an empirical test the hypothesis has generated. The consciousness question is central to the simulation hypothesis. For a simulation to include us with our inner experiences, our feelings of being alive, our sense of identity, the simulation would need to instantiate something like consciousness. This is the hard problem of consciousness applied to simulation. If consciousness is physical, a physical simulation should be able to instantiate it. If consciousness requires something beyond the physical, then a simulation might not contain genuine conscious experiences, even if it contains beings that behave as if they are conscious. The simulation hypothesis and the hard problem of consciousness are deeply entangled. If we are in a simulation, the most important question is whether the simulators can intervene. This is the secular version of the question about divine intervention. Are there beings outside our reality who can alter it? Bostrom has noted that if our simulation is being run by a civilization with normal motivations, they might intervene for various reasons: to prevent us from discovering that we are simulated, to test specific scenarios, or simply because they are observing us for entertainment or research. The interventions might be indistinguishable from miracles, from luck, or from the normal operation of physical law. The simulation hypothesis has been criticized on several grounds. First, the argument assumes that consciousness can be instantiated in a computational substrate, which is not established. Second, the computational cost of a universe-scale simulation may be physically prohibitive even for advanced civilizations. A 2022 paper found that simulating even a small region of the universe at quantum mechanical resolution would require more computational resources than the observable universe contains. Third, the argument involves self-referential reasoning that some philosophers consider circular. Fourth, even if a simulation is possible, we have no way to determine that we are in one or to act differently if we were. Whether or not we are in a simulation, the question is worth taking seriously. It is one of the few genuinely novel philosophical ideas of the 21st century. It sits at the intersection of philosophy of mind, cosmology, computer science, and physics. It is falsifiable in principle. If evidence of the kind being described were found, it would be significant, and it confronts us with the deepest question about the nature of existence. What would it mean if reality as we know it were a construct? Would it be less real? Would our experiences matter less? Whatever the answer, the question is worth having.